All of the never eating. Let me see if I can pull this up. And we back. Fly, you there?
Yeah, I just got the notification
Yeah.
about you about gender pronouns.
Yeah, you seen the little description? That how on point, ain't it? I'm ready, bro. I'm pulling up the YouTube interview that made me even think about this shit.
A word? Okay.
Yeah. We can do that, like do that as a
I'm waiting on
reaction.
Desiree because you
She
got
just
her
popped in. I'm about to
right
put
in the
her
middle
in
of
right
her
now.
response.
Yeah, so you were saying, what were you saying, Fly with it, when I brought up gender pronouns?
I just want to know how to know which one to use, and do you just ask it off the rip? Like when do you know to ask?
That is a great question.
Can we give
I
people a story first?
Yeah, go ahead.
A backstory.
Yeah, kind of like, I mean, just for the people that join, like I asked the question of, do people want to discuss gender pronouns, because you have non-binary people, and I don't know if I'm politically correct, but I'm just trying to get it out. You have basically these new, would you call these sexual orientations?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
No.
or genders.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
Oh, that's right. You see the way she stood up.
Gender identity is different than sexual
Gender
orientation.
identity. There you go.
Yeah.
You have these new gender identities, and they're requesting to be called certain pronouns versus the ones that we're used to, which are he, she, him, her, they, and so on. So Flywitty was just asking, how do you know what to call someone if they want to be called something other than the classical pronouns that we're used to? Desiree, you have the floor.
Yeah. I want to offer another quick like learning moment is that the way that people identify in regards to their gender, even like currently, like when we are talking about like trans men, trans women, and I'm non-binary people, those identities have always existed. There have always been people on this planet that did not identify with the gender that they were assigned at birth,
I'm taking
and
notes.
it feels new now to a lot of people because we didn't always have the language to say, hey, this is how I identify. And um, especially here in the States, everything is colonialized. So native communities have always had trans people. They refer to them as two-spirit people. Like it's always been a thing. So
Hmm.
that's the one thing. And then to Rodney's point, um, yeah, you ask the same way you don't know someone's name, the same way you don't know. Maybe some folks like to be referred to as like yes ma'am, no ma'am. Um, Especially here in the South, and depending on what age range you're talking about or talking to. Um, yeah, I would ask if at any point you're unsure. It's as simple as, "Hey, what's your name? What's your pronouns?" And
Whoa.
yeah,
This shit is heavy for me, bruh.
is
Uh,
it?
It is like, it goes back to our conversation that me and you had. That's a deeper one, and I think we'll probably unpack here in a second. But
Mhm.
I'm about to share what you just shared with us, and this shit just fucked me up. Like the fact that I did not know that. Hold on. How do I pull up the screen?
We can
Because
see
it's
your
the
screen.
wrong
Gender
one.
pronouns or no, not
Yeah,
that one.
but that was the wrong one though. Let me see. I wanted to show the two spirit people. Like, bro, I just did some quick research while she was talking, and she's not lying. And
Wow. Did you think I was?
well, I feel like if I don't know about it, it's
Then it
skeptical.
didn't
Like,
exist?
yeah,
Wow.
it might
All
not
right.
be the truth. But I thought it was a modern thing. like maybe natives on reserves, but as you can see,
Mhm.
8 things you should know about two-spirit people. Two-spirit people have been present in native communities for countless generations that predate
Countless.
LGBTQ terminology.
Yes.
Wow.
But what
Um,
is that?
What does two spirit mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
Well,
let's look it up.
in I don't want to speak for Native communities. I'm not Native, but my understanding of it is two spirit people are people who do not fall within our quote unquote traditional like binary of man and woman. They're
Hmm.
actually regarded as like very special individuals in Native communities. They're like to be honored and to be respected um, because they're two spirited people. And it's like, if for people that know anyone who is trans, I'm fortunate to have trans people in my community, and they really are. There's a certain level of um, what is the word that I'm looking for? There's a certain level of like genuineness that the trans people that I know possess, because to literally look at the world outside you and have the world outside you tell you you are this, but to know different for yourself and to actually live in your own truth
Hmm.
and not fall
Hmm.
into whatever the people are telling you.
The
That's like,
material realm, not
yeah,
letting that shit influence you. That's real.
yeah,
That that's spiritual than a bitch. Damn, that's deep. Like this is the thing that's very interesting to me. The fact that you know them, but I don't. But hold on, let me read this definition. Um, because fly with it ass. Traditionally, Native American two spirit people were male, female, and sometimes intersex individuals who combined activities of both men and women with traits unique to their status as two spirit people. In most tribes, they were considered neither men nor women. Damn, I was about to say, hold on, they missing a big piece, and there you go. Men nor women, they occupied a distinct alternative gender status. Wow. What do you think this was covered up in
yes,
the for the sake of patriarchy?
yes,
What the fuck?
yes. It's the reason. It's the same
Wow.
reasoning why, and you might run into what I would refer to as like hoteps now, who would say that like homosexuality or transness are things of like are like white
Unnatural.
people things,
Right.
and
Artificial.
it's not real. It's actually the white people that came in and it was like, wow, y'all are expressing yourselves a little bit too much.
It's a
Here's this
spiritual
Bible.
freedom,
Yeah,
right? That what the fuck? That's
yeah,
crazy. That got heavy quick and real really fast. So this is my thing. The reason why I know about it, and I want us to watch this little quick video. I don't know if he's gonna. I found the shortest one I can find. On Jordan Peterson. Are y'all familiar with Jordan Peterson? He's a ex professor from a Canadian university, uh, identified in the media as far right, but he's a philosopher. And I actually love watching Jordan Peterson talk. One of the reasons is because he's on the far right, so I get like some perspectives that I don't normally get to come across, and they're articulated in a philosophical tone. So it's not like he's just being super racist or like not being sensitive to other people. It's articulated intellectually and like you can still grab some value out of it. Now, that's how this came across my radar. Earlier when I was doing my little spiritual routine, I was listening to one of his interviews, and there was a media person, almost paparazzi style, but more so a journalist, since he's famous, but not you know what I mean, like a entertainer icon in the music industry or anything. But they ran up to him and they asked him if some people that got hurt at one of his rallies, does he condone that? And he handled himself really well, but then they put the gender pronoun thing on him because he feels that we shouldn't change our pronouns. I want him to speak for it for himself. Hopefully he covers it in this interview because I don't want to waste 8 minutes of our time, but fuck it, I'm gonna roll the dice and take the risk. It's his Joe Rogan interview, which I can see this little stream that I'm doing getting bigger than Joe. I'm coming for you, Joe. But check this out. Let me know if y'all can hear it. Can you hear that?
No, we're still on the Google.
Okay. Hold on. Good, because Fitness Connection trying to put an ad on my shit anyway. Let me see. Share screen, Chrome tab, Jordan Peterson, Lego. Can y'all see that?
Join for just $10 down and $10 a month. No other gym gives you this much space, all-inclusive amenities, unlimited classes, and more. Join Fitness Connection today for 10 down and 10 a month.
Hello, freak bitches.
Yeah.
That's my fundamental orientation, and so, or my fundamental concern. I mean, I don't expect people to be 100% honest, because of course, who is, I mean, that's a hell of a high standard to hold anyone to. But all of that is smoke and mirrors, and I think the people who are after me know it.
Well, let's get through some of that then, yeah. just to sort of establish it for people maybe that don't know. What issues do you have any issue whatsoever with someone being transgender?
No, I don't have any issue with that. What I have an issue with is that I don't like to see the postmodern neo-Marxists use the transsexual issue as a lever for pushing forward their political nonsense. And I said that right from the beginning in the videos I made to begin with. The reason I wouldn't use the words Z and Zer and all those other made-up words, however many there are now, is because I'm not willing to cede the linguistic territory to postmodern radicals. I'm not doing that. And they say, well, we're doing it on.
I want to pause there real quick and say he's strictly on the stance, not of the individual can't identify with themselves the way they want to. He's coming from the perspective of he doesn't want to. And the reason why is built on linguistics, and linguistics being a part of thought. And if you tell me how to talk, then you tell me how to think. Now let him finish making his point.
On behalf of the oppressed transsexual people. And I think, yeah, well, that's what you say, but there's no reason I should believe that. I don't believe anything you say. I think you're contemptible, cowardly, ideologically motivated, cult-like corruptors of the youth. So why would I use your language?
Well, let's unpack that, because one of the things that I find fascinating is how few transgender people want to use those words. The transgender people seem to want to identify with whatever gender they like. If you are a male to female.
This is also a true experience of my own, Desiree. When I was working at Parkland in the operating room, there was I'm going to respect his request now that I have more knowledge. So it'll be no more he, but just for backstory purposes. There was a person in the operating room, and I go in and we cleaned up the room, and he asked for something. I think we changed the bed out for the next patient, and I used the word he, or maybe sir. And he said, no, it was he, because the person said, oh no, it's she, although they wasn't fully done transforming physically. So that's the reason why I didn't kind of know where to go with that. And I felt the way about it. I didn't get offended, of course.
Why did you feel a way about it, though?
Right. That's the reason why I do want to talk about that. I felt the way about it because I feel like her correction,
Yep.
her correction might have been valid on her side of things. However, I wasn't trying to misidentify her. So I know that it's not personal, but I just, like, if I did it again on accident, that's the part where I'm kind of exploring my opinion, and my stance on it all is that's going to take a lot of work. Muscle memory wise, like you see how much I'm struggling now. So I don't know, like you always reminded me that almost, I don't know. I just want you to be sensitive to the fact that that's all new.
I'm super okay. So maybe let's establish this.
That's what Fly With It was coming. He was like, how do I like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
But literally all of us, any person that I know who's cisgender, which just simply means that you agree with the birth that you were assigned. You agree with the sex that you were assigned with at birth, or the gender that you were assigned at birth.
You said cisgender?
Cisgender. Not
Oh,
S.
C.
CIS.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So basically any cisgender person that I know that is in community with trans people, that loves trans people, we have literally all gone through, it's a constant learning. It's not like a one and done, this is how you say this thing to make sure that everyone feels good about it. It is a constant learning. So I don't want y'all to feel like anything that I say is like, don't do
Like
this.
condemning me or yeah.
Yeah, but I do get defensive about it just because like trans people, especially black trans people, are like literally killed very fucking often. And it's
You brought that
because
up
we
to
don't
me.
have these conversations.
I have a
Mhm.
I have a question. Is one is someone allowed to be offended if someone calls them cisgendered?
My I I don't traffic in like what's allowed and what's not allowed because like I don't think that we should police each other's language. I would just ask if you are offended by something that's literally an adjective, like why? Like, is that coming from you feeling there being certain feelings about
Well,
transness in
adjectives
general
have
or
been used
anything
Isn't that
that's
against
the
different?
people a lot. Hold on, adjectives have been used against people a lot. Like
Hmm.
whether it be the gender identity, I've had my art referred to as urban, and I'm not supposed to be offended by that, but I was.
Hmm.
So if
that's a real
someone refers to me as something I don't identify as, like if I don't identify as being cisgender, but someone calls me that, am I allowed to be offended, or am I supposed to be understanding to this new language?
It
hold
might.
on, Fly. Is the difference the fact is they were talking about an object versus a person?
Mm,
Well, I'm looking at the word adjective particularly. Is
Right,
the term that
exactly.
was used.
That's my point that I'm making though. The pronoun would represent an actual person, right?
mm-hmm.
Versus
Pronoun,
the
yes.
adjective is representing your an object, your artwork, something without flesh and bone, you know? So it's like the artwork has a right to be offended more than you do in this logical debate. You know what I mean? Conversation. Does that
Well, I
make
believe
sense?
no, because I believe everyone should be called what they prefer to be called. Like I wholeheartedly believe that, right?
Right.
Now, when you start talking like you were saying in terms of language, like you don't want to use the wrong
Oh,
language,
okay.
then
I see
how
what you're
in
saying.
fact do you communicate that without being insensitive one way or the other? It's like a tug and pull.
That's
Yeah.
the biggest gray area of this whole thing is because I agree with everything that you said, Desiree. Like you've opened my eyes a lot too. Like you said, the transgender community, or I don't know if this is the right term, but the homosexual community. You've opened my eyes to like they do need people that are not homosexuals and not transgender speaking for them and making it a normal conversation because they're people. However, like linguistics can be used as a weapon,
Mm-hmm.
especially with 1984 and with everything like with surveillance cameras everywhere, with data mining going on everywhere. If you could technically be using the data to transform the human species through legislation on what you can and can't say. It
I
could be used as a weapon of
It has been.
destruction.
It literally
Yeah,
has been.
exactly. Yeah, that's
It's
true.
been going in the other way, which is
Right.
why whoever this person is, this Jordan, any conservative thought is literally the thought that everything is fine as is, nothing needs to change. And
Hmm.
we already know that that's not logical. Like
True.
we literally have to change. If
Change is the only
today,
truth.
exactly. So, which is why I can't. It's very, very, very hard for me to listen to conservatives speak because everything that they say is, well, I'm not changing that. Why do we have to change that? That's fucking liberal wet dream. Like, yeah, it's a fucking liberal wet dream, bitch. Like, that's what the whole point is.
I think what you're saying is, I think what you're highlighting, which some people might not see just face value and surface, is one of the biggest advantages to him making this point is conserving the power that already is with where linguistics are already currently at
Yes,
versus
white,
having
straight
that
Christian
transfer.
men.
All
They
right, let's
have
finish
all
this.
that shit.
Especially since you said you cringe when you hear people like this talk, I want you to hear more.
Wow.
Female transgender person, you would prefer to be called a she,
Right.
like Caitlyn Jenner, right?
Right.
And pretty much everybody calls the artist formerly known as Bruce Jenner Caitlyn Jenner, right? That's just like if you had a look at how many people just openly accept that, it's pretty well accepted, right?
Mhm.
Most transgender people prefer that. They prefer female to male. They prefer to be a man now. I'm a man now. Okay, Bob, Dick, whatever your name is. There's not a lot of Zer talk.
Well,
maybe I'm out of the loop.
No, you're not out of the loop. The other thing is those are all third person pronouns. It's like I'm not going to call you a third person pronoun while we're sitting here. I never would. If I'm referring to you when I'm talking to someone else,
Call their name, right?
Well, I could use your name. I might use he then, but I don't know. Well, it's just all of it is palpably absurd. I think it's always hard to get the level of analysis for this sort of issue correct. Because the people who are pushing it forward say, well, we're against harassment and discrimination. And they attribute all the moral virtue to themselves. But then what I see is that they're utilizing a group, a very small minority group, who already have enough problems, in my estimation, for nothing other than straightforward political purposes. I don't buy the warm-hearted, all-inclusive love that the people who are pushing this sort of thing forward claim to
I don't
display.
believe that either.
I don't see that at all. What I see mostly is resentment and the desire to undermine. And I'm quite familiar with the postmodern philosophy, not as familiar as I could be, and also reasonably familiar with its underlying Marxism. And there's nothing.
That was a really good question.
I would say I've already watched this and I'm familiar with a lot of what both of you guys are talking about. So I'm going to mute myself again.
No, don't mute yourself, bro. we're kind of at a good stopping point for now. You know what I mean? Like normally when I do these streams, especially about something that I don't know, when I post my reel, I'll post like notes from the stream that I go look up. So that's what I kind of plan on doing with this. Fly with it. Where you trying to go, bro? You want me? You about to leave? If so,
I'm not going anywhere, sir. I was here to listen. I'm here for the conversation.
Got you.
My viewpoint is like I'm neutral until I know what works.
Same.
And I'm hearing both sides. I'm still learning. So I'm still taking in the information. I don't particularly understand the end goal and how this benefits both parties.
Well, the thing is, you say neutral to see what works, and that's the only thing that has me out of the gray area that I normally sit in, because we'll never know if we never try it.
Try what?
And if we never try to change the pronouns to something new and progressive. So with that being said, though, one of the biggest
pronouns the problem.
Listen, I was about to go there, my good sir. Listen. So one of the biggest reasons why pronouns have to shift is because, take for instance, if someone is born Natalie Copeland and they own a home, they own a bank account, they own a car, they own a passport, their family is from Ireland, they could potentially their landlord could potentially fuck them over because of the pronouns on the paperwork. The government could potentially fuck them over because of pronouns in the fine print of their citizenship. It becomes a legality situation. That's the reason why that's the only reason why I wanted to talk about this, bro, is because it is political. It's not just personal opinions. Like, people have lost their homes People have been locked out of their bank accounts. People have killed themselves because of this. So that's the only reason why it's on my radar. It's not just because of me being a advocate to the community. That came later. And after it came, when Desiree brought it up, I started looking more into it to see like what could I advocate. And like this is one of the things that popped up. Is for people to know it. Like it's not just your everyday interaction that they want it changed for. They want it changed for their everyday interaction, not yours. Did that answer any of your questions?
No, but I'm listening.
Do you have any more questions then?
Not
I think that
particularly that's going to
I,
address anything.
I think that
Because
answers
y'all
some of
didn't
your
you didn't
questions,
answer
man.
my question already. Like I asked my question, it wasn't answered.
What was it? Repeat it for me.
Even with your response, I'm not understanding what is the long term benefit of calling someone their pronoun or not calling them their pronoun. Like you can just not use a pronoun in general. Would that solve the
Mhm.
underlying problem, whatever problem is?
I think your question about it, if it's really about pronouns, is important because pronouns are like a
I
part of
agree.
it. But the bigger thing is, we, as a society, we don't do well with people that are different, with people that have less than us, people that look differently than us, people that love differently than us. We just have like, it's like the white supremacy that's like corroding this whole fucking shit. Is we just, anything that's different we choose to demonize instead of just letting people fucking exist. um so the pronouns are like part of it, but to what you were saying, what is the long-term goal, just in being in better relation with each other, regardless of what our identities are. I think that's should be the long-term goal. Like I shouldn't, global warming is already like a fucking thing, but I shouldn't have to worry about like my potential future kids. Like if I have a trans child, what what world am I creating for my trans child? Is my child going to be that child that commits suicide? Is that my child going to be that child that's like
Hold
fucking
on. See,
clinically depressed?
Hold
I
on,
don't I
well,
can't
real
get
quick
answers like
before your
this.
point, before your point,
Don't make me
the
sad and depressed to try to.
no
It's the reality.
the pronoun talk that you're bringing up doesn't matter. I think on that level it doesn't. I'm
Mhm.
with you on that, Rodney. Like because those are all theoretical and, like you said, emotional situations, potential situations on top of that. But the reality is what I told you, fam. Like if the pronouns do not change, it's some paperwork that these people have that technically is it's not valid anymore. Do you understand that? Like, I
You talking
mean,
about
that's
the ID card or
Mhm.
just the
no,
literal sense of
bro.
what you're
No,
speaking
the
of?
ID can change, but we're talking about the terminology of it. We're talking about so people just accept terms and agreements, but it's like 10 pages of fucking verbiage. And the verbiage has he in it, it has she in it, it has they in it. And if, bro, just, and I think this is a Venus thing. This is a Libra thing. Like just know, and probably a Gemini thing. Knowing that I can use those as loopholes, I can fuck you over because it doesn't say it. Your name was Natalie Copeland when you signed this. Yeah, you changed your ID. Cool. Yeah, the government acknowledged that. Yeah, you changed your passport. That was the local government. So now you changed your passport. The federal government acknowledged it. But this paperwork hasn't acknowledged the fact that you're not a he anymore. And I can use that in court. Like, so that is a concrete reason for me personally to like be on their side. Now, when you talked about the emotion, if you still had that thought, I do want to hear what you were about to say when you said that you can't have conversations like this. Cause I'm with you on that, bro. When it comes to like a logical debate.
Because from the information I gathered and what I hear, it seems to be like several arguments being put into one stream. Like can we talk about pronouns without talking about gender? Can we talk about like legality without talking about sexuality? And I understand the changing of identity, but how did that prevent stuff like identity theft or you creating a false identity? Like, does that protect or does that make that harder? Like, what's the overall end goal? Or we're just talking about something that's really small to LGBTQ.
I think okay, so I'm gonna push back a little bit on that thinking because and this was something that we had a previous conversation about. A lot of people that are not in community with a lot of queer people, it feels like any LGBTQ issue, it's like pushed off in the corner and then don't really have nothing to do with us. Every legislation that passed that is harming a queer black person harms you too, whether you know it or
Which
not.
legislation?
They just passed legislation saying that little trans girls can't play on the same, and these are elementary school kids. Little trans girls are not allowed to play on the same sports team as the girls' team. So that's causing that child to be outed for one,
And you feel
for
that
two, to be alienated
do you
Let
from
feel
her
their
that
finish her
peers.
point. Let her finish her point. Go
Two,
ahead.
to be alienated from their peers, and three, for other black girls, other black cis girls, not just trans girls. We're already hypersexualized and we're already viewed as being more masculine than other people. That comes back on all of us.
Hmm.
There's a rule now, literally right just past the Texas legislature, that says that technically schools can out their students for being trans by saying you can't play with the girls because you were assigned this at birth, even though they're literal kids. And that's traumatizing for a child that was brave enough and wise enough to say, this is who I am. I know who the fuck y'all thought I was, but this is who I actually am. And this is how I am presenting to you, and this is what I would like to be referred to
Okay.
as. A
Okay.
bunch of adults are sitting around and being like, no, you can't do that. And like I said, by extension, it harms other girls, whether they be trans girls or not, because we're already hyper criticized. And I know for men, it's hard to kind of see that full scope sometimes.
Well,
Because
I want Rodney to be able to speak for himself for how he
mm-hmm.
sees the scope before we go there. Because I think that Rodney, like, he's asking some really good questions.
and she's not answering them because she's trying to play on emotion. And I understand.
But
You know,
what
I
question are you
understand that
asking that I didn't answer?
because I'm trying to be as literal as possible. So people that you say males, you know, all these terminologies, males, conservative, liberals, all the terms you keep bringing up that we don't supposed to not adjective for, they have a certain way of thinking. So you have to break it down as literal, logically, and as scientific as possible without playing on people's emotion.
And I
Because
think this
everyone has an
helps.
agenda.
I think this
I don't know.
helps. First of all, I want to like put that out there. I think that hearing what Rodney has to say helps strengthen the argument to advocate for these like sectors of society because he has a neutral stance that
It's
is
not
grounded.
neutral.
And
Well, it's
I'm really
grounded. Hold
not
on. When I say
I'm not
neutral,
I
I mean
she
it's
right, she
grounded in
right. I'm not
logic.
neutral. I'm not neutral.
I mean it's
And
grounded in logic.
right, it's granted not, but I'm not neutral, to be honest with you. I'm not. And it's not the way that she probably thinks I am, which is the problem. And that's why I feel like it's
Mm-mm.
problematic for you to be set. Like I feel like you may be closed minded because you feel like I'm the oppressor or I'm against your cause, and I'm not.
I
And
didn't
so
say
when you
none of that.
use I understand, but
Well,
you use
he
certain
just
terminology that I don't identify with, and nor did this person in this video identify with. So I feel like when we put terms on stuff that someone didn't call themselves, we're putting them in a box already, and we cannot even have an unbiased conversation if you already put them in a box.
Jordan Peterson doesn't identify as a conservative.
I don't know what he
he does.
identifies as.
He definitely does.
Yeah,
I
I'm
haven't
pretty
listened enough to
sure.
the information to know.
Well, I'm telling you, he does. My question is this: since it came up, why do you think that legislation was passed? Like, what are your thoughts and opinions on it, Desiree? Like when you said that
Yeah.
the transgender girls can't play on the like, what is the
The same,
intention? Like,
yeah, the same
it's so weird to
emotion,
me.
the same emotion that that Ronnie
Time
has pointed out in
Time out, time
my
out, time out, time out. I'm
uh
sorry because The reason why I'm asking is I think that they have us going back and forth on this conversation
Yeah,
versus talking about them
I was
and what
getting there.
is their agenda. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
the same emotion that Rodney pointed out that I was saying in like in speaking my case about it or my views about it is the same exact fucking emotion that they're using to actually pass legislation. So they're not being logical. It's not like
Mhm.
they're winning the game by being logical. You actually don't win the game by being logical. So
Mhm.
what they're playing on is control and fear. If they can control the narrative,
It's,
which they're
it's like to
doing,
push people the way that they want
hmm
to go, and that shows that I still have control.
and they had that whole the fucking bathroom bill, like what was that, 3 4 years ago? It was literally the same type of controlling shit when all the niggas in any house that I've ever lived in use the same bathroom. It's really not that serious, but they
Hmm.
made it that serious by trying to
Hmm.
say that these trans people are like, they demonized them. In all honesty, they were like, they're
So
gonna rape your daughters, they're gonna be out here doing this, that, and the third,
so
all of that.
it goes back to the whole divide and conquer situation.
Yeah.
That's crazy, bro. That shit is wild to me because Rodney, like when you hear that, bro, how does that make you feel? Because that looks more like realistic than anything, dog. Because
Because
they
it
don't.
is true. It's true, and that's the problem. Like
Yeah,
it's like on one end, it is some issues. I'm black. You know what I'm
I'm
saying?
gonna
And
try to get
first
somebody
off,
else in
being
here.
black is already comes with its issues, right? But
Mm-hmm.
when we start talking about the terminology and what we identify as, black people already have identity problems. But when we talk about identity, I feel like it's almost where we have to be real fluid. And so it's almost to affect to me, it's like, does it matter what we call ourselves? And then if it does, then we all
Okay.
have to identify as the same thing to be considered what human? What is the terminology? What are we?
Well, this is the thing. Well, this is what I see from your point. In a logical lens, Desiree, if you take the majority of disenfranchised people, right, and you break them up into a pie chart, and you have them starting to sub identify, then you take them out of the bigger picture of what the whole point is to begin with, which is what we've been talking about this whole time. The power is being conserved and it's not being shared fluidly or fairly, I guess you would say. Or let's not even say that. It's just being systematically held on to.
And I don't know, well, what I heard in like your pie chart example was that like those sub segments, like the existence of those sub segments, kind of alter where the oppressed group can focus. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's actually been to our detriment. And I'm speaking about Black people because I care about Black people. I think
Mm-hmm.
the subsegment of Black people that are wanting better, quote unquote, for us as a whole, that will still turn around and demonize another Black person that looks like them because they identify differently or they love differently. That I think is actually the issue. We're
I
so
see
much
your point.
stronger, and the
I see.
people, in all honesty, the people that are actually in the streets doing the work to better these things, to make sure that we have farms, to make sure that we aren't all in fucking food deserts, like these are queer people.
Can I come
Like,
in? Can I
mhm,
interject? All right, Desiree. I'm with all that, right? And my ideology is black first, right? Like if I'm black, black first, regardless of all the other stuff, right? But my issue is that we don't have a definition of what black means. And I feel like if we had a love of our own, all the sexuality and all the stuff wouldn't matter because we're for ourselves first. But does that get into the territory of black supremacy that they like to use? You know what I'm saying? Like we're
no.
not protecting our own regardless of sexuality. And that's the issue.
And that's the
Yes.
point that
We try,
she's making as well.
but how do we
Mhm.
combat that without the terminology getting in the way?
This is okay. Go ahead,
I
Desiree.
think these conversations are important. I think I do want to talk more about your feeling about us even needing to define what Blackness is, because that feels like, I don't know, my identity as a Black person is like spiritual more than it is even like on my outside, like, so
Same.
that's like a whole different thing. But I
No, same.
do think that
Can I
I don't
even
think that
pause
the
you right
terminology
there?
has to get in the way. I think
Can I even
we
pause you
can,
right there, ma'am?
yeah.
If the general Black people are identified as Christians, and a lot of people, it's a certain sect that identify as spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
How do we even bridge that gap? Like even the spiritual religion thing is a big divide.
I see his point too.
And I will admittedly say that
So okay, I'll admittedly say that means that Christianity needs to be destroyed. Because
Really, real talk.
that's the wall. The
Because
wall
spirit,
is not the spiritual people saying that they won't be inclusive with people that believe in Jesus or whatever their belief is. The wall is the Christianity, which we know was not created by us, and it creates a barrier between anybody that looks like us but doesn't identify with it. In a sense, you have some that are starting to be more progressive towards accepting other ideologies and beliefs, but for the most part, and especially in the past, that wasn't tolerated. And
spirituality
it,
is the understanding of all things. That's
mm-hmm.
what it
right,
is. Like if you're spiritual, you probably can understand where everyone is coming from. And I think that's the issue. Because we're
I
all
do too.
interconnected. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't have somebody going through some issue over here and don't think it
Yeah.
affects you. And that's
Yeah, that's one of the biggest weapons that we already knew that. We already know that. That's probably one of the reasons why we identify with it the way we do. But now it's showing, now that all of us have lived long enough and experienced and stood on our truth long enough, we see for a fact how it affects other parts of life.
yeah,
And that's
specifically the
crazy.
politics. And that's the
Specifically the
politics.
politics. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yes,
Politics,
sir.
as they like to say.
Politics for real. And I think that's one of the main reasons why, I would have to go deeper into that, but I would just say I feel like that's why I don't get into them at all, because I
And
know it's a byproduct of the same fucking
let me go
thinking.
deeper, a deeper thought, right? This is probably also why a lot of them ancient knowledge was oral and not written down.
Hmm.
Mm.
Just think
And why
about
you
it.
say
Yeah,
that? Well, what's your
Because
point?
what's
I
written
feel
down
that.
in text, you can
You
change the
can
meaning.
manipulate. Yes, sir.
But if
Yes,
something is
sir.
shared, you already have an
You had
understanding.
to
You have to
feel it.
pass that on. You have to pass
Yes,
it on.
sir.
It's already. That's why they say what's understood don't need to be said.
And listen. The same thing that we're discussing and we have conflict with and we're talking about combating, it's not written down. White supremacy is not written down. It's passed on.
That's
Mm-hmm.
why it's so
It's
hard to
taught in the
identify.
household. That's why it's hard to fucking highlight. That's why some people don't think it exists, bro.
Hmm.
That's crazy. That was a good point. And
You're
I
not
think
allowed to
that
call someone a racist because
right.
it's not anything
Well,
concrete.
someone called me racist last night, and I'm like, what? I was
Was
like,
it a
do
black
you know
person?
what that means? No, but it was a person of color, and I'm like,
But
stop
those are
doing that.
very
Like,
different.
And see, you
Rodney
just
had the
said person of
question.
color.
Yeah, Rodney
See,
had the question that mattered. Okay, so I don't want to get us on a tangent or anything,
it was
but
a
there's
non-white person,
a non-Black person.
a non-black person. I like that. I like that.
If you're not Black, being Black, and this is
Is
also
the
what Rodney was talking about, like
yeah
it's something that like is just fucking understood. So like
right?
if you ain't it and you say some off the wall shit, I don't
no,
care
no.
how
Everyone,
colored you are.
No, I said was it a black person?
no.
Yeah.
She's saying, yeah, that's not what we're talking about. She's saying that, like, when I said person of color,
Oh,
that's
okay, yeah,
another a
okay, yeah,
weapon used
yeah.
against us, because when you're Black, you're Black. I just had this conversation with her last night, and especially being in an interracial relationship for so
Well,
long. Nah, bro, listen, G. Like, just my personal experience. I'm not saying anything is fact here, but being in an interracial relationship for so long, and like people people that are not white want to identify with black until
It's actually time to be black.
they
Right.
realize they're not
Right.
black.
Yeah.
Soon as they
Right.
realize they're not black, they're like, oh shit, like, okay, I must slide in this area because I can go here and that person can't. And that's what she's saying. Like, all black people know we only got one area.
Hmm.
And this is the area that we're trying to stand up for right now and define.
Well, see, this is also the thing that Dr. Nelly Fuller Jr. presents. He suggested that we use the term white and non-white to separate all of that, because you know if you're white or not. Whether
Mm-mm.
you're black, that
I think that's
varies.
still
Whether you're
confusing. I
African,
think we
that
should use
varies.
black
Whether you're
or
Latin,
non-black.
that varies.
I'm down with black or non-black.
I think black or non-black is more
Black or non-black.
yes
Hmm.
sir, black or non-black, bro,
What
because
is black?
you're still
What
focusing
is
first of
white?
all. Exactly.
Well,
That's
we're not the
my
people who
point.
define that. We're not the people empowered to define that.
But
White people are the people who
we
That
call
can
it
doesn't
for
mean
that
that we
now.
can't.
ourselves. We can
And
for ourselves though,
exactly.
Rodney. And that's what we're doing now. See, like, and I'm just saying, like, from my perspective on everything, like, I always throw that L word out, but that's where I'm at. I even showed it earlier in the stream. Logically speaking, you're already focused on the wrong way. You need to be focused on you and what is not you, not what is someone else and what is not them. That's the only mistake I think that he made in terminology. I think that he would agree with us if he
So
heard
what is
that.
black then?
That's where we're getting to. I think that's the next conversation that we have.
Yeah. And I
That's
think I'll just preface that conversation with saying I don't think that we need to define it, because what has happened,
Uh-oh.
what's continuing to happen
Uh-oh.
now, is we define shit for ourselves and it gets stolen. I think if we actually just invest in doing the shit and being in community with each other, making sure that each other is good, holding each other accountable, I think that that needs to be where the focus is versus trying to explain who we are to the rest of the world. They know who the fuck we are. We've
No,
literally been the culture makers for I don't even know how fucking long.
I
they
do not
definitely know
agree.
who.
We don't
No,
own our
they
shit, but they know who the fuck we
fam, they
are.
I
know
do
who
not
we are.
agree.
Fam, they know who
myself.
we are. That's how they re-engineered and reverse engineered us to begin with. You can't fucking divide us the way we've been divided, fam, without knowing who we are, G. Like, literally, like, you cannot break up families. You can't create government assistance programs. You can't use the term white supremacy and systematic racism and say that they don't know who we are.
Mhm. I
That's
think
what the
that's a
system is set up
burden.
for. Like, the system is set up for who we are, for who we were at first, and then to who they turned us into as a group. What are your thoughts on that, Fly? You want to
Um,
sleep on it?
no, I don't have to sleep on anything that I'm studying.
Right.
Um, I feel like it's kind of problematic because we was conditioned to be in a position where we don't know our identities.
Hmm.
So yeah, they probably do know who we are, but we definitely don't.
Yeah. So
So that's why
that's a
I feel.
different.
But to put it back
Okay.
on Desiree, I feel that's why I feel like it's necessary to define whatever black in black culture is, because when you talk to some black people and they're African or know where they from, they know what that culture is over there.
Hmm.
And so what I'm noticing right now in the now, it's a distinction between African Americans and African in anybody who has a actual geographical location that they came from that's not America. They have a sense of self. And I feel like people who was born in America
Ooh,
and of or America, they have a certain it's something that's missing. Like it's an untangible that they just can't identify with themselves.
it's
And
That
I
to
first
think
what?
that's
house,
the problem of slavery and the race
Yeah,
mixing and all
they
the other
took that
stuff.
first house away from us, fam.
And you don't want to talk about white people, but when you talk to white people, they have no problem calling themselves Irish, Jewish,
because they know
Scottish.
that. I
You
don't.
feel
I
me?
think
Yes.
I completely feel you, and I think that your question is coming from, or is in a lot of ways, at least where it connected to for me, was like that kind of yearning to just want to fucking know
Heal. To
and
want to heal.
heal. And that I think is
To
beautiful. But I
know, to
also think
know and
that
heal.
that burden is not for us to have to bear. I'm fortunate in that I have a family of storytellers. So I have like photos, I have letters, I have all types of shit from like people that came before me. But that's not the fucking norm. And if I didn't have that, I would need to, you have to, I think it's important that Black people find our home within ourselves. So within ourselves, as in like our own bodies, and within ourselves, within our own
So when you talk
immediate
about
family.
photos, like, are you
Mhm.
identify with a particular tribe, or are you talking about who your great grandparents are?
Literally just knowing who my great 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 grandparents are, where they were from, where they worked, where they lived their lives. That to me is enough because
Well,
that's
for
all
me,
I
it's
have.
not. For me, it is not. So where does
And
that
you
put me as a
can
Black
spend your,
person?
I mean, you can dwell in that
It's not a dwell. Uh, I
because there's no way
recently,
to find it out unless
Hold
you,
on,
so
one person at a
if
time. One person at a time. Let Fly go real quick.
Mhm.
I feel it probably is a way to find out. It depends on if you believe the information you receive, right? They have the ancestry.com, but then they also say that's not good. You got to try African ancestry.com. So it just
Mhm.
depends on which one you believe first off, but it is a way to find out. Because again, when you talk to certain white people, they know their bloodline and their lineage,
And
I
and
think
we
the
what?
don't.
position of power, I'm going to let you take the floor right after this, Desiree. I think the position of power is not going in the past at all, and also not going in the future because it's not here yet, and being present with the conversation that we're having. And like everyone has said on here, s- finding some type of framework for community is definitely necessary. And I think that we haven't done it as a collective progressive enough to know what the byproduct of that would look like and what that would feel like, Rodney. So that might be the healing trauma that you need because, like you just said, bro, you just talked about writing shit down and twisted artifacts. So technically, you're not going to get to that anyway. But I would say, theoretically speaking, with everything that you just said, knowing that you belong to a community and hearing like Desiree or different things like that will give you that. I'll put it in because I also use astrology for this stream. It'll give you that fourth house of home, of spiritual home, of knowing that like you belong somewhere and that you're not fucking an outcast in this land that you were dragged to. Desiree.
I, for one, I feel like I already know a little bit too much of white people's business, so I don't actively like care about what white people are
You a
doing or
secret
saying.
agent, low key. For real.
So I, that's one point. And my second point is both of the ancestry things that you named, I've done. I did the African one. I know on my mom's side, we came from the Fulani tribe in Cameroon. And I did the ancestry one which I already knew the background of that because I know, thankfully, my parents' background. So
How do they
neither.
prove that though? Are they using a computer? Like that's the reason why that's all bullshit to me. It's like, bro, if I didn't see you track down my ancestors, the type of person that I am, especially understanding communication and understanding some people just hope and wish and want to
Mhm.
believe in something, man, I can write down anything. So that's the point that I'm trying to make about the past. It's like that shit's really not gonna help you much when you're going through their systems and processes to get there.
Yeah.
It's the same fucking situation, bro. As you knowing your name ain't real. Like
And
especially
I
like
was
the
getting there, but
okay,
I was getting there
my bad.
because I don't know how accurate the shit is. All I know is I did the shit. It Nothing about it makes me feel more connected to my past in any way. The times when I feel most connected to my blackness, to myself, to my soul is when I'm with the people that I love. Period. There's
Exactly.
nothing
That goes for
outside of
anyone.
that.
No one can
Yeah.
dispute that.
There's nothing
Now,
outside of that that's gonna make any part of us feel whole.
I'm with that perspective. It's something that can't be quantified because you're talking about emotion,
Mm-hmm.
and that's another way that niggas try to trick you. But bro, that goes for everybody. Like that's the reason why people want to know their lineage to begin with, is because when you're around that feeling, it's fulfilling. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So yeah. This was a really good talk. My laptop's about to die. Uh I really want to pick up on this though. Actually, I don't know what you all's week is looking like. I'll get what y'all offer here, but I want to pick up. I wrote down a lot of notes on some things that y'all brought up. I definitely want to tackle what is black. What is black culture? I have this imaginative, creative way to actually find out. I want to see how you all feel about it, but I want to make sure that I ask it live on the stream. So I'm gonna save it. And yeah, do y'all have any like closing remarks or anything?
Since I thought we had some time, I told you about this. Don't get me in deep conversation and cut me off. You said you had time when your laptop's about to die. That's a
Yeah,
different conversation, but
it
Mm-hmm.
is.
Desiree, I would definitely like to go further into that conversation. For one,
Same.
since you already took the test and I'm thinking about taking it, and then for
Mm-hmm.
two, you said you didn't
Okay.
feel no connection to that whatsoever. And I think
Yeah,
that's something we should have a whole conversation about in general.
for sure.
Because I don't know, when I look at African people, it's something, right? I'm sure we just
Mm-hmm.
being black in America has its own issues, but it's something about them. Like I don't know if it's the
Well,
language or the
well, yes, you got language, and then Rodney, you also got the migration. We didn't we us our generation of
We were
being black
stolen.
Americans, we haven't migrated together. These motherfuckers migrate together. Even if they don't speak the same language, they know what it took to get here. So they share that. Just like immigrants in the Hispanic community. Just like immigrants in the Irish community. It's like that story, like you said, that audible story of nigga, my grandpa and them hopped on a boat or they swam over here to make sure that we got a better life. So it's already me against where I'm headed because I got to make sure that shit works out. And I think that's the mentality that we're starting to develop here together, like us three, is like just identifying what is the external force and us coming together to fight against that motherfucker versus saying, all right, I'm gonna individually do this on my own and hopefully I can help motherfuckers later. You know what I mean? Because them immigrants don't work like that, fam. Like they
I
get
think we
each other
lost
on.
Rodney.
Oh,
I don't see him on here.
I
But
ain't got a little Amber Alert too. I don't know if that's why I lost that nigga, but
probably.
this was a really good conversation. I didn't expect it to go here at all either.
Me
It's
neither.
crazy. It's crazy how well I'm glad that you got a chance to see why I consider Rodney a friend. Like we've been talking like
Mm-hmm.
this for 11, 12 plus years. He'll stand on his opinions too. I love that about him. And articulate them like with purpose and intellect.
Yeah.
So yeah, bro.
you guys
I
talking
was
about me?
Yeah.
yeah, I was. You'll be able to see it on YouTube.
We
Everybody,
talking cash
subscribe to
shit.
the. Yeah, we was talking about how we don't like you, but subscribe
That's
to
a
the
bet.
YouTube. Like, comment. We'll pick this back up as soon as I know. I might start making flyers or announcements or something when we do this because there's some shit that people do gotta hear. Although I'm not gonna be a hypocrite, Rodney. If people
Yeah,
gravitate to it, they do. If they don't, they don't. You feel me?
right. And I don't like people talking behind my back. So y'all really not
Oh
gonna tell me
my
what y'all said. I
god.
really gotta go
It's
listen.
it's
It's
recorded,
recorded.
so it's not
It's
behind
gonna
your back.
be immediately up after this. That I can go
Yeah,
skip this and
I'm
watch
about
it.
yeah, I'm about to. I think the live actually you can go to my Facebook page and watch right now, but um I'm about to chop up some clips on it and I'll be uploading the full video while I do that. So I'll let you
Cool.
know.
Yeah,
And
I
then
hate I
y'all
was
let me
cut
know when
off,
y'all free.
When
but
Yeah,
are
I
we
I don't
talking
really
appreciate the
about marriage?
conversation. Marriage.
Yeah, he said marriage. We can
That's a
do
whole different
marriage.
conversation.
It's a whole different
That's
conversation.
what I thought I was talking about tonight. So I was like
I
prepared for that.
know. I know.
Ooh, really?
Let's
You know
Yeah.
I can't
see.
agree.
I got you
Yeah.
from now on,
I
Mr.
got
Rodney.
pull up,
I-
which I don't mind at all. I'm prepared for most conversations.
You are. That's what we was talking about behind your back too, by the way.
Okay.
But yeah, so y'all just let me know your availability this week. And I mean,
You know
if
my
y'all free,
availability.
yeah, I know yours, but I don't know Rodney's. So if y'all are free, bro, we can get this in. I told you I'm gonna do this every day this week for sure from let me see, from 6 to 9. And my laptop will be charged.
Allegedly.
Okay.
I guarantee it.
Uh-huh.
All right, so just let me know, Rodney, and I'm about to wrap this up because I'm ready to get this up.
All right. Cool.
I'll talk to y'all later.
All right. Peace, Desiree. Peace,
Bye.
Vance.